The war had lasted for nearly a decade. Humanity had been outnumbered, outgunned, and outmatched in every conceivable way. The Dominion, a vast empire spanning hundreds of star systems, had crushed every species that had dared to defy them. And now, Earth was next. The battle had already begun above the ruined colony of Epsilon Prime. The Dominion fleet, an armada of 100 warships, hovered like a swarm of locusts, their plasma cannons raining hellfire upon the last human outpost in the sector. The colony was already a lost cause. Evacuations had failed, defenses had been obliterated, and the screams of the dying echoed through the burning ruins. But then, something happened. Something the Dominion could never have expected. A single human ship, the U.S. Vengeance, emerged from the darkness of space, cutting through the debris field like a knife through flesh. It wasn't a battleship. It wasn't even a dreadnought. It was a single experimental warship, barely larger than a heavy cruiser. And it was the last hope of the human race. The captain stood on the bridge, staring at the colossal fleet ahead. His crew was silent, waiting for his command. Every single one of them knew the odds. Every single one of them understood that this was a suicide mission. But not a single one hesitated. He exhaled, his fingers tightening around the armrest of his command chair. Activate the Nemesis protocol. There was a beat of silence. Then the ship came alive. The Vengeance wasn't an ordinary vessel. It was a prototype, built in secret by the last remnants of the Earth Defense Fleet. It had no massive cannons, no shields powerful enough to withstand a prolonged fight. But it had something else. It had Nemesis, an experimental AI integrated directly into the ship's systems, designed to react, adapt, and evolve faster than any organic mind ever could. It could predict enemy movements before they even made them. It could calculate optimal attack strategies in the blink of an eye. And most importantly, it had no mercy. The Dominion fleet commander sneered as he watched the human ship approach. A single vessel. He laughed, his mandibles clicking. They insult us. His second-in-command chittered in agreement. Shall we destroy them now, Commander? The commander considered it. He could simply wipe the ship out in an instant, but something about this intrigued him. There was no logic in such a desperate attack. And if there was one thing he had learned about humans, it was that they rarely acted without a reason. Let them come, he said, leaning forward. I want to see what they think they can do. He would soon regret those words. The moment the Vengeance entered weapons range, it vanished. The commander's eyes widened as the human ship disappeared from every known sensor. There was no cloaking device that advanced in human technology, and yet it was gone. Then the destruction began. One of the Dominion battleships exploded without warning, its hull split open like a cracked egg. A second ship suffered the same fate, its reactor overloading before the crew could even react. The fleet erupted into chaos. They're using some kind of stealth weaponry, one of the officers shrieked. The commander slammed his fist against the command console. Find them. Now. But they couldn't. The Vengeance moved like a ghost, appearing for only milliseconds before vanishing again, its weapons carving through the Dominion fleet with pinpoint precision. It wasn't brute force. It wasn't sheer firepower. It was calculated annihilation. The AI was playing them like a game of chess, predicting every counter, every movement, every feeble attempt to fight back. Within minutes, a dozen ships had been reduced to nothing but burning wreckage. And the Vengeance wasn't stopping. The commander felt something he had never felt before. Fear. Real, gut-wrenching fear. Pull back, he screamed. Fall back, tow. His command ship lurched violently as something tore through its hull. Sparks erupted across the bridge, and warning sirens blared in a language he barely registered. Then his screen flickered. A human face appeared. The captain stared back at him, his expression unreadable. We were never going to win this war, the captain said, his voice cold. Not with numbers, not with technology. He leaned forward. But we were always better at one thing. The commander's mandibles quivered. "And what is that?" The captain smiled. "Survival." The Vengeance fired its final shot, and the Dominion fleet burned. The Dominion fleet was in shambles. Wreckage floated in the void, the once mighty armada reduced to twisted metal and drifting bodies. Fires raged in the vacuum of space, their eerie glow casting long shadows over the battlefield. And yet, the Vengeance remained untouched. The last human warship drifted through the carnage like a phantom, its sleek black hull unmarred by the destruction around it. Inside, the bridge was silent, save for the hum of Nemesis processing billions of calculations every second. The captain leaned forward in his chair, eyes scanning the remains of the Dominion fleet. The battle was over, but the war was far from won. A soft chime echoed through the bridge. "Nemesis," the captain said, his voice calm but firm. "Status report." The AI's voice, cold and precise, filled the room. 78 Dominion warships destroyed, 19 heavily damaged, 5 attempting retreat. Probability of enemy reinforcements arriving within the hour, 87%. The captain's fingers tightened on the armrest. "And our status?" "0 casualties. Primary systems operational. Ammunition at 62% capacity." The bridge crew exchanged glances. They had done the impossible, but they weren't out of danger yet. If more Dominion forces arrived, they wouldn't last long. The Vengeance was powerful, but it wasn't invincible. A lieutenant turned in his seat, eyes wide with urgency. "Captain, should we pursue the retreating ships?" The captain's jaw clenched. It was tempting. Letting those ships escape meant they would warn the rest of the Dominion. But chasing them would burn through their remaining resources, and if they ran into another fleet, they wouldn't be so lucky. "Negative," the captain said. "Let them go." The lieutenant hesitated. "Sir, if they already know what happened here," the captain cut in. "And that's exactly what I want." For a moment, silence settled over the bridge. Then realization dawned on the crew. Terror. He wasn't just fighting the Dominion. He was sending them a message. For years, humanity had been on the defensive, running, hiding, losing. The Dominion had seen them as weak, unworthy of fear. That perception had ended today. And now, they were going to use it. "Nemesis," the captain said. "Broadcast a message on all Dominion frequencies." Confirmed. A moment later, a screen flickered to life, displaying the face of the Dominion commander. The same one who had watched his fleet burn. His mandibles twitched, his eyes filled with rage, and something deeper beneath it. Dread. "You lost," the captain said simply. The commander hissed. "This means nothing. More fleets will come. You cannot stop the Dominion." The captain tilted his head. "Are you so sure?" The wreckage of his fleet told a different story. The Dominion commander's breathing was heavy, his composure cracking. The captain leaned closer to the screen, lowering his voice. "Run back to your masters," he said. "Tell them what happened here. Tell them that one human ship, wiped out an entire fleet." He let the words sink in before delivering the final blow. "And tell them we are coming." The transmission cut. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then a slow grin spread across the lieutenant's face. "They're gonna lose their damn minds." The captain exhaled, rolling his shoulders. "Nemesis, set course for the next Dominion supply line. We're just getting started." The Vengeance turned, engines roaring to life as it vanished into the void, leaving behind only burning wreckage and the whispered promise of vengeance. The war had changed, and for the first time, humanity wasn't just fighting to survive. They were fighting to win. The Vengeance slipped through the darkness of space, a lone predator in an ocean of enemies. The war was no longer a losing battle. The Dominion, for the first time in its centuries of conquest, had felt something alien to them. Uncertainty. Fear. The captain stood in the dimly lit war room, staring at the holographic map of Dominion-controlled space. The display was a sea of red, marking the enemy's vast empire. But amidst the overwhelming red, small cracks of blue, human resistance cells, hidden bases, and scattered survivors began to emerge. The Dominion thought humanity was dead. That was their first mistake. A sharp chime cut through the silence. "Sir," a voice called from the bridge. "We have incoming transmissions, multiple sources." The captain straightened. From who? Not the Dominion. For the first time since the battle, a flicker of something close to hope crossed the captain's mind. Patch it through. The screen flickered to life, revealing the grainy image of a man, ragged, bruised, but very much alive. His uniform was tattered, his face smeared with the dirt and blood of war. But his eyes burned with something the Dominion had failed to crush. Determination. "This is Commander Hale of the Andromeda Resistance," the man said, voice rough with exhaustion. "We received your transmission. We saw what you did." A pause. "You gave us hope." The captain exhaled, a slow, measured breath. He hadn't realized how much he needed to hear that. "We thought we were alone," Hale continued. "That Earth was gone, that we were the last survivors waiting for extinction. But if you can take down an entire Dominion fleet..." He didn't need to finish the sentence. They weren't waiting for extinction anymore. They were waiting for orders. The captain didn't hesitate. "Commander Hale, I need locations of every resistance group still alive out there. Every hidden base, every supply depot, every single soldier who can still hold a gun." Hale's expression hardened. "You have them." "Good." The captain's eyes flicked back to the holographic map. "Because we're taking the fight to them." The war wasn't over, but it was about to begin. Days later, Dominion space was in chaos. The attacks came without warning. One by one, supply convoys vanished. Outposts went dark. Weapons depots exploded without a trace of who was responsible. And every time the Dominion tried to respond, the vengeance was already gone, slipping back into the void before they could even fire a shot. They tried to adapt. They doubled their patrols, reinforced their bases, sent entire fleets to hunt a single ship. It didn't matter. For years, they had been the hunters. Now, they were the hunted. The captain stood on the bridge, watching as yet another Dominion warship crumbled under the relentless assault. The crew moved with precision, their fear of death long replaced by something else. Purpose. "We've confirmed another resistance group has joined our network," the lieutenant reported. "They hit a Dominion armory last night. Stripped it clean." The captain nodded. "Good. Let's give them another target." Nemesis's voice rang through the speakers. "Next viable strike point. Dominion Fuel Depot Theta 9. Strategic value. High. Probability of retaliation, 94%. The captain smirked. "Perfect." The Vengeance turned, engines flaring as it vanished once more. The Dominion wanted this war over. But humanity had only just begun. The Dominion's empire was beginning to fracture. For centuries, they had ruled unchallenged, crushing civilizations with overwhelming force. But now, whispers of something terrifying spread through their ranks. A single human ship was tearing them apart. Fuel depots burned. Supply convoys disappeared without a trace. Military stations, once thought impenetrable, were reduced to nothing but wreckage drifting in the void. And worse, the humans weren't just running anymore. They were fighting back. On the bridge of the Vengeance, the crew moved with practiced efficiency. Every day, more resistance cells made contact. More survivors were pulled from the ashes. The shattered remnants of humanity were reforging themselves into something new, something the Dominion could no longer ignore. "Captain," the lieutenant said, eyes fixed on his console, "we've intercepted a high-priority Dominion transmission." The captain leaned forward. "Let's hear it." The speakers crackled to life, and a guttural alien voice filled the bridge. "This is Supreme Commander K-VAR. Effective immediately, but the Dominion fleet is enacting full-scale extermination of all human insurgents. No prisoners. No negotiations. We will end this infection before it spreads further." The crew stiffened. The captain, however, just smiled. "They're scared," he murmured. Nemesis's voice cut through the silence. "Analysis confirms the Dominion is diverting fleet assets from other warfronts. Probability of human resistance becoming a primary threat, 76%. They're overcompensating," the lieutenant muttered, "trying to show strength." "Which means," the captain said, standing from his chair, "they're making mistakes." He turned toward the holomap, scanning the Dominion's known supply routes. "We can use this." He tapped a specific location, a heavily fortified Dominion outpost sitting between two major supply lines. "Nemesis, give me a probability assessment. If we take out this station, how badly does it cripple their response time?" The AI processed for a brief moment. Estimated 38% increase in Dominion supply delays. Strategic value. Critical. The captain nodded. "Then that's our next target." The crew exchanged glances. Hitting a Dominion outpost was suicide. These weren't lightly guarded supply depots. These were war machines designed to repel full-scale invasions. But hesitation had no place on this ship. The Vengeance had proven time and time again. Impossible was just another word for Tuesday. The Dominion outpost loomed ahead, a massive structure built into the rocky terrain of a barren moon. Dozens of warships circled its perimeter, their weapons locked and ready for anything. Anything except this. The Vengeance did not attack from the front. It appeared inside their defenses, slipping through blind spots the Dominion didn't even know they had. The first explosions ripped through the station before the alarms even sounded. By the time the Dominion responded, their own defenses were already compromised. "Station shields are down," the lieutenant shouted. "Then let's make it count." The Vengeance unleashed hell. Targeted precision strikes ruptured the station's core systems, igniting chain reactions that sent fire racing through its infrastructure. Warships scrambled to respond, only to find themselves outmaneuvered, their own formations used against them in ways their rigid tactics had never accounted for. The battle lasted only minutes. The station, a proud symbol of Dominion control, was reduced to molten wreckage. The survivors of the Vengeance stood on their bridge, watching as yet another piece of the Dominion Empire crumbled. The captain exhaled, his hands tightening around the armrest of his chair. "One more step," he murmured. The war was shifting. Humanity wasn't just surviving anymore. They were winning. The Dominion could no longer ignore the truth. This was no longer a minor rebellion. This was war. Across their vast empire, panic spread like wildfire. Supply lines had crumbled. Key military installations lay in ruins. Their forces were stretched thin, desperately trying to contain an enemy they'd once dismissed as weak. But the humans weren't weak. And the Vengeance was proving it. Deep within Dominion space, the bridge of the Vengeance was eerily calm. The crew had been through countless battles, and each victory only sharpened their resolve. They no longer fought for survival alone. They fought for vengeance. The captain stood at the holotable, scanning the latest intelligence reports. More Dominion ships had been recalled from the front lines. Entire fleets were abandoning other wars just to deal with humanity's insurgency. Perfect. They're reacting exactly how we wanted, the captain muttered. We keep hitting them where they're weak, and they keep making mistakes. The lieutenant leaned in. Sir, we've just received new intel from our contacts inside Dominion space. Their high command is holding an emergency war council in the Argon system. The captain's eyes darkened. The Dominion was gathering its most powerful military leaders in one place. A desperate move. A necessary one. And an opportunity. What's the security like? The captain asked. The lieutenant hesitated. Heavy, a planetary fortress, surrounded by an entire battle group. This isn't like the other raids, sir. If we go in, there's no slipping away unnoticed. The captain nodded. This wasn't just another attack. This was a decapitation strike. And it would be suicidal. A long silence settled over the bridge. Every officer, Every crew member knew what was at stake. They had all signed up to fight, knowing they would likely never see Earth again. But this was something different. It wasn't just another battle. It was a chance to end the war. The captain exhaled. "This is it," he said finally. "We've spent months chipping away at them, but if we can take out their leadership, they'll tear themselves apart." The lieutenant finished, understanding. The Dominion ruled through fear. Take away the ones who inspired that fear, and their empire would crumble under its own weight. It was madness. It was impossible. And it was exactly what the Vengeance had been built for. "Prepare the jump," the captain ordered. "We're going straight into the lion's den." The crew didn't hesitate. No one questioned the order, because they all knew the truth. This wasn't just another battle. This was the final strike. And by the time the Dominion realized what was happening, it would already be too late. The Vengeance tore through hyperspace like a spear hurled into the heart of the Dominion. This was no ordinary mission, no calculated retreat, no surgical hit and run. This was a kill shot. On the bridge, the air was thick with anticipation. The crew had been through countless battles, but this one was different. If they succeeded, the Dominion's entire command structure would collapse. If they failed, well, failure wasn't an option. "ETA to the Argon system?" the captain asked. 2 minutes, the lieutenant responded, voice steady despite the tension. The captain exhaled, rolling his shoulders. This was it, the moment that would decide the fate of humanity. And the Dominion had no idea what was coming. On the surface of Argon Prime, the Dominion's high command gathered in their fortified war room. Holographic displays showed the damage caused by the Vengeance. Entire sectors lay in ruin. Their fleets were stretched to the breaking point. The Supreme Commander slammed a clawed fist against the table. "This single ship has made a mockery of our empire. Where are my reinforcements?" A nervous officer hesitated. "Still being mobilized, Supreme Commander. Our forces were spread too thin." Enough excuses. The Supreme Commander bellowed. "I want the Vengeance found and destroyed, no matter the cost." Alarm suddenly blared through the command center. One of the technicians gasped. "We have an incoming ship." "Wait, no, that's impossible." The display flickered, and there it was. A single human warship had just dropped out of hyperspace, directly above the Dominion's most fortified planet. The Vengeance had arrived. "Engagement in 10 seconds, Nemesis reported. The captain's fingers tightened around his chair. "Launch the drones." Outside, the ship spat a cloud of autonomous combat drones, each one programmed for a single purpose, overwhelming the Dominion's air defenses. Within seconds, the planet's automated turrets were firing wildly into the sky, trying to track targets too fast to lock onto. "Shields at maximum," the lieutenant called out. "Incoming fire." The ship rocked violently as planetary defenses opened up, filling space with plasma and flak. But the Vengeance didn't slow. It dove straight into the inferno. On the surface, the Supreme Commander watched in horror as his fortress was bombarded with pinpoint precision. Anti-aircraft guns erupted in flames, power grids failed, and communications scrambled. This wasn't a battle. It was slaughter. And then the real nightmare began. The Vengeance unleashed drop pods, small, sleek capsules that plummeted through the sky like meteors. Inside each one, human soldiers, the last remnants of Earth's elite forces. The captain stood on the bridge, watching the battle unfold below. The Dominion thought this would be an attack from orbit, that the Vengeance would fire from a distance and flee. They weren't ready for this. They weren't ready for a direct assault. The war was no longer about survival. Now, humanity was here to finish it. The captain's voice was ice cold. "Burn it to the ground." The Dominion's fortress world was in chaos. Explosions tore through the sky as human drop pods crashed into the surface, each one delivering elite soldiers ready to bring hell. The fortified stronghold of Argon Prime, once thought impenetrable, was burning. For the first time in history, the Dominion's leaders were not watching the destruction of another species. They were watching their own annihilation. Inside the war room, alarms blared as officers scrambled in a blind panic. The Supreme Commander, his mandibles twitching with rage, slammed a clawed fist onto the console. "How did they get past our defenses?" he roared. An officer stammered. We don't know. The human chip's AI scrambled our systems. Our targeting arrays are failing. Communications are down." The Supreme Commander grabbed the officer by the throat and threw him aside. "Then do it manually. We still have an army. Kill them." The officer choked out a desperate plea. "Sir, they're already inside." A cold silence fell over the room. And then, boom, the reinforced doors of the war room exploded inward. Through the smoke and fire, human soldiers stormed inside, weapons raised. Their armor was scorched from battle, their movements precise, and at the front, standing tall, was their leader. The Supreme Commander took a step back, his confidence crumbling. The war was over. Above the battlefield, the Vengeance still fought. Dominion warships had arrived in orbit, desperate to reclaim their stronghold. The captain stood on the bridge, his expression unreadable as the battle raged around them. The odds were impossible. Again. And yet, it didn't matter, because humanity had already won. The Dominion's leadership was dead or captured. Their forces were leaderless, their empire fracturing. Even if the Vengeance fell today, the war would not end in Dominion victory. It would end in their destruction. The captain exhaled, watching as Dominion reinforcements desperately tried to break through the chaos. His fingers hovered over the controls. Then he smiled. "Nemesis," he said. The AI's voice responded instantly, awaiting orders. The captain's voice was calm. "Finish it." The Vengeance unleashed everything. Orbital bombardments, EMP pulses, precision strikes that turned the battlefield into a graveyard. The Dominion fleet tried to fight back, but they were too late. Their empire was over. On the ground, the Supreme Commander, once the most feared leader in the galaxy, fell to his knees. He stared up at the humans standing before him. He rasped. "We were supposed to be invincible." The human soldier didn't answer. He just raised his weapon and pulled the trigger. In the days that followed, the Dominion collapsed. With their leadership gone, their fleets scattered, their worlds cut off from supplies, the mighty empire that had terrorized the galaxy for centuries crumbled. One ship had started it. One human ship had destroyed an empire. And now, humanity wasn't running anymore. They were taking over. The Vengeance disappeared into the stars, its mission complete. But the captain knew this was only the beginning. Because in the void of space, power was never left unclaimed for long. And if the galaxy wanted a new ruler, then humanity would be ready. For the first time in history, they were not prey. They were the hunters. And the universe would never forget their name. Humanity had won, and nothing would stop them again.